Hi guys, in this video, I want to talk about something that I find extremely interesting. It's this concept of how to live for free while owning multiple homes.
Guess what happened to me today? What? I got a free tattoo. I could not believe it. The guy said, "Do you want a tattoo?" Just a random, opened up the side of his van. No. He said, "It's for free." I said, "Sure."
Multiple properties, multiple condos, what have you. And of course, it's extremely challenging. And it's a very small percent of Americans who have figured out a way to do this. And when I talk about living for free, it's effectively zeroing out your living expenses. And we'll talk about that in the meat of the video. But before we get started, if you're able to give me a like or subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. This channel is growing quickly and I am excited for everyone that's taking a look at this video today. So let's get going. Now let's take a look at some data. 66% of Americans own one house, and that's it. It's just their primary. They're doing the best they can to mow the lawn and take care of it every week. And when you look at the data regarding how many Americans own a second house, it's less than 5%, which is super interesting. But it makes sense because of the economics, and it's typically cost prohibitive to even own one house. So owning multiple houses, it kind of makes people's head spin. So let's talk about how you can own multiple houses and still live for free, which is this really cool concept that I'm super excited to talk about. I broke this video down into 4 parts for us. The first is, what is living for free and what does that really mean? The second is, how is that really achievable? Taylor, you're telling me that I'm gonna have thousands of dollars in mortgages, yet I can still break even? And yes, I am. The third is, what changes mentally and in your life when you start living for free? There's a cool shift that starts to happen. And then the fourth is, what steps can I take today to start getting closer to that living for free and break even point? So let's dive in. All right, gang, so let's dive into the meat of the video. So number one, what is living for free and what does that really mean? So by definition, it just means that it's what you think it is. It's that you have no outbound expenses. You are living for free. You don't have a rent payment and you don't have to send a mortgage check in the mail every month. And so in real estate, we're kind of adjusting that definition because at this point, we're looking for a break-even level. And so what we're doing is matching our outbound rent or mortgage payment with an inbound rent check so that we're breaking even. And to make it super simple, let's say we have a $2,000 rent or mortgage and we're sending that out every month to the bank or our landlord, and we have a $2,000 check coming in. So effectively we have broken even and we're living for free. It's an amazing concept. So keep in mind, even if you have a paid off house, you're still gonna have things like property taxes. Those are never going away. You're gonna have a utility bill, trash, water, sewer. You're gonna have your internet package. And if you watch one of my last videos, I had to come out of pocket multiple thousands of dollars for a new HVAC system. So those are things related to owning properties that are never gonna go away. But here specifically, we're talking about matching the outbound expenditures with the inbound rent and getting to a break-even level. So let's talk about how that's achievable now in number 2. So number 2, how is this actually achievable? This concept of living for free, this pie in the sky idea that such a low percentage of Americans have actually been able to achieve and then actually maintain. How can I look at a piece of paper and see the math and say, wow, I have achieved living for free? So the first thing really is that you need to own something that you can rent. And in this channel specifically, we're often talking about real estate and owning houses. And that's over time one of the best historic methods of effectively guaranteeing rentership and that income coming in on a monthly basis. But there's other things that could subsidize your living, and that maybe you own a couple storage lockers at a local facility that you rent out. Or maybe you're renting out your car or different things like that. So there's different ways. It doesn't have to be real estate rentership that can help in getting your expenses to a break-even point. But real estate historically is one of the most popular and one of the most tried and true methods for matching your living expenses on a monthly basis. So if I can get one point across in this video, it's going to be the concept of understanding cash flow.
1,000 years,
You are
money.
the past.
That's what matters.
Yep.
And no one is ever going to be able to live for free if they don't understand on paper what is going out every month and what is coming in. And this gets super, super important as you build a real estate portfolio. If you're like me, you want to put it on a spreadsheet, and then you can play around with the numbers, drop in different numbers here for mortgage rates and rental rates, and see how it's going to play out. So you need to come out with a firm understanding of how you can buy a house, rent it, what that rental rate is going to be, and then what your mortgage rate is going to be, where those fall. And then if you look to buy that second house and that third house, where that mortgage is going to be, what you can rent it for. And then it's basically just figuring out how all these pieces come together, what the taxes are. Again, we talked about utilities and other supplemental things around the house. And how is that going to come into play as you're looking to break even and reach that live for free point? And from a tactical standpoint, there's a few different things that you can do that you might want to think about if this is truly a goal for you. Most Americans don't care. Of course, they would love to live for free, but they're not going to put that mindset, that maniacal focus in play to actually achieve their goals. And so that's why this is, again, such a special and elite group of people that have actually achieved being able to live for free and own multiple properties. It is a insane concept. It's crazy expensive. It requires a crazy amount of focus and work to actually get there. So you might need to move to a cheaper area so that your rent is not as expensive. And so you can lower that outbound expenditure. Maybe you already have one house, or maybe you have two houses already, but you're paying $5,000 in mortgages versus only getting $2,500 in rent. And so your outbound expenditures are twice what your inbound is, and you're not at a point where you're living for free yet. So maybe you need to pay down some of your mortgage. Maybe you need to refinance and get to a level, again, of parity. And if you're not there yet, you have to make it a focus, because again, as we'll talk about in just a second, it's a really cool thing in your life when you're able to not have as many outbound expenses and get to a point of breaking even. Now, number 3, what changes in your life when you don't have living expenses, when you've reached that break-even point? This is probably my favorite thing to talk about, because if you've ever met someone who's really stressed about money all the time versus someone who's living really comfortable, possibly maybe even a billionaire whose biggest concern is, can I get a seat on a spaceship? Those people are living wildly different existences, and it's because of their living situation and what they are required to pay on a monthly basis versus someone who is really well off, what they're required to pay versus the absurd amount of money they have coming in. And so there's a very cool shift that takes place mentally, because you're not worried about the same things anymore. There's this huge mindset shift that takes place when you are able to keep more of your paycheck. When you're looking at the middle of the month or the end of the month, and then you're tallying in your head, oh my God, I have to pay this, and I have to pay this and this bill, and then my rent or my mortgage is due at the end of the month. And it just starts to become more daunting, and it takes you down mentally. It takes you to a place of potentially depression. Or again, we look at how many marriages end because of financial issues, or how many people are killed over financial skirmishes and things like that. It's a terrible way to live. So the optimism that abounds once you start to limit your outbound expenses is really incredible. And you start to see what happens in your life and the mentality that you start to take on when you actually get to keep more of your paycheck, and you're not having to go out and spend on all these different things just to stay alive and keep your home or keep a roof over your head. So that shift is really, really exciting. And then beyond that, the whole point is wealth accumulation. And if you listen to Dave Ramsey, for example, he talks about this wealth snowball that starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Hey Dave, how are you doing?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
Because you're keeping more of your paycheck, and you have just more discretionary income, and it changes your investing habits, and it changes how you live your life. As we're talking about, you can take more vacations, and you don't have to stress as much, because not all of your money is going to your landlord every month. And so your wealth accumulation starts to multiply faster and faster, and it becomes part of this exponential curve, because you're, again, keeping more money, and then that's multiplied out, and then the compound interest becomes bigger and bigger. And as you do this sooner and sooner, the wealth grows faster and faster. So that's why I personally am so excited about this concept of living for free, because I don't want to have all of these outbound expenditures. I want to keep my paycheck, as does everybody. But again, it's a ton of work, and you have to put steps in place to actually achieve it. And think about the stress reduction that actually takes place when your paycheck hits your direct deposit and you look at your bank account 5 days later, 10 days later, 15 days later, and it's still there. That's an amazing concept. And you're not beholden to this dark side of capitalism where you're having to give everything that you make to all of these different creditors because you owe lots of money and you have all these bills. So the alleviation that takes place mentally and physically, because stress affects your body as well, is really incredible as your living expenses are diminished over time. And so that concept is super exciting to me and should be to everyone as you look to, again, reach that break-even point with your living expenses. Now, lastly, number 4, what are the things that I can start doing today to start influencing getting to that break-even point and matching my outbound living expenses with my inbound rental income? The first thing is a mindset shift that needs to take place. If you don't have that, and if you don't have maniacal focus, again, an extreme level of focus on achieving this goal, it's just not gonna happen. And of course, this is the most challenging thing, right? If everyone in America had the same financial knowledge, the same real estate knowledge, the same maniacally focused mindset on achieving this break-even point in living for free, then everyone would probably own like 5 or 10 houses, but that's not the case. Remember, it is a very special elite group of people who have actually been able to achieve this across the country. So what you'll really need to do is start with the mindset shift. And when I say that, I mean, build yourself a business plan and be as vocal about it as possible. Tell everyone that you know, hey, I'm on a pathway to achieve financial freedom, and my first goal is to live for free. And they're gonna say, what does that mean? And start to build it out, spreadsheet it out, like I said, and put all of your outbound expenses every month, all of your inbound, your paychecks, and if you already have a rental property, your income, and then what does that look like? And where are you at right now? What is your level? And maybe you're renting right now, and this is a goal to own a couple houses and then match the expenses on a monthly basis and have a break-even cash flow situation, which everyone is aiming to achieve. And beyond that, you'll need to break into the real estate market. And unfortunately, it's super hard right now in 2023 with interest rates as they are. So my advice would be to just start stacking cash. Save as much money as you can. Limit your current outbound expenditures. Maximize your inbound pay as well. And get to a point where you're gonna be able to put a down payment on a house that's gonna be able to be a good rental for you in the future. Or like we talked about, doing something else and buying property or an asset that you can rent out so that you can start to subsidize your outbound expenditures and your living expenses. When all of these pieces start to come together for you, you're going to be so impressed and amazed at how linear your thoughts have become. Linear meaning straight line, because you are hell-bent on achieving this goal of living for free and achieving financial freedom in the long term. So as you're putting these things together, you really just need to adopt that maniacal focus so that you can achieve everything that you've set out to achieve in living for free. So I thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. Until the next video, I'll see you later.